Okay, let's start the class here. Thank you for joining me, everybody, for a Saturday workshop on muscle tension, the secret killer of violin technique. This is a very important topic to my heart because I struggled with muscle tension myself in my own playing, and I started to notice it plaguing my technique. And for years, I couldn't figure it out. I had people hinting to me that, wow, you look really tense when you play, and I had no idea. And then when I started to have an idea, meaning I was starting to become aware of the issue, I didn't know how to address it. I didn't know how to soften the tension. I didn't know how to unlearn my patterns of playing too tightly, too tense. And guess what happened? I got injured. So let me tell you the quick story of time I was playing a musical called The Producers. I loved playing the show. I had a fantastic time. So it wasn't because I didn't enjoy myself. It was because it was a very vigorous show. And I decided to be like my favorite teacher, Mr. Laurent Fenyevich, who celebrated his birthday 4 days ago. I decided to take off my shoulder rest. What happened was I started playing without the shoulder rest, and unknowingly I started to raise the shoulder, meaning that the neck was getting tight. So this is what began my journey about muscle tension and playing. Little did I know that I was playing with a pattern of muscle tension. And so that led to me not being able to play fast, nor did I have any stamina in the left hand. This became a problem for me. And then this started a very, very long and gradual journey of me looking at the way I play. So this is really exciting because I don't think I've ever seen a workshop like this ever from a violin teacher. Has anyone? If you have, maybe put it in the comments. With that in mind, actually, I would love for everyone to now type in the chat what your experience is with muscle tension. I will just quickly scan through to see so that I can get a sense of what I can concentrate on today in this class, in this workshop. Okay, Bridget says, plus with a new word, it would fall. Yes, totally. I did actually. There was one other story when I was playing Sleeping Beauty at the National Ballet of Canada. And at the time, trying to unwork the tension. So I was consciously releasing my neck and shoulder. We'll do this together in the class. But what happened was in the middle of playing up high, it was the end of Act 1, I believe, or Act 2. And it was all these tremolos. And because I was trying to make my shoulder go low, I dropped it. And I also dropped the violin as I was going up the tremolo, up the violin. It was a big, big, big shock. I have lots of ballet stories, national ballet stories. I dropped my violin. And the fingerboard went off. I couldn't finish the show. So let's take a look here through the comments here. Thumb tension, okay, from Clara. Ray, you're just starting to learn, so everything's tense. Okay, Jenna's in my VIP class. I hold a lot of tension in my jaw when I play. Lynn knows, yes. We will talk about that. Laura's tension left thumb. Okay, so left thumb, left hand, right shoulder. Naomi, I think Naomi's in my VIP class in Australia. We had a class yesterday, actually, and all we did was look at shoulder. Right, Nicole says, this is the first workshop on muscle tension that you joined. That's my point, yeah. Okay, Jane, the harder something is, the harder my fingers press. Me too. So this is a matter of us learning and unlearning. We will talk about that. Left shoulder, burning pain, Audrey. In the left shoulder, ulnar pain between pinky and ring finger on the left hand. Oh boy, that sounds bad. Maybe nerve. Neck stress, pulling across my back, a bit of a limp at times. Oh boy. Okay, Paulo, vibrato, doesn't feel relaxed. Chris, tension in left shoulder. So a lot of people have left shoulder. Anna, hi Anna, epicondylitis, right arm, prolonged muscle tension. Oh boy. Noelle, okay, when you get nervous, you get tight. Okay, that gives me an idea. So I would like to start off with maybe a bit of a laundry list of my symptoms used to be. My forearm also got tight when I played. It also got very tired. So I also had my hand tightening up when I started to express myself. So when I wanted to play expressively, I would also dig in. So when I wanted to express, I would press harder. So that was one of my tension problems. Also in my bow, I felt like I was starting to tighten up this muscle, which would be the levator scapula on the right side. And so then the bow would start to get stiff and spiccato would get difficult. Also when you are nervous, then you start to tighten up in the back and also the chest as well. And then the bow is more difficult to keep smooth and starts to shake. I'm sure people have come across shaky bow a lot. So I started to realize that by me taking a look at how I used my body, how I was inside of my body, then I could start to slowly melt away some of this tension in my playing. And I'm really, really happy to report that this this is starting to work really well. 2 weeks ago, I've been playing a lot of concerts in the Toronto Symphony, and in the middle of concerts, I find what I tell my VIP students, I find micro moments when I'm playing in the middle of a concert. Micro moments can be inside of a note, it can be in a rest, it can be while you're waiting for another section to play. Moments can be long and prolonged and many bars, or they can be inside of a note. Play a note, release it, and that's a micro moment when you can use the training that we will do today to find ways to subtract. We're going to talk about the subtraction exercise, to subtract muscle holding and tension that you do not need. For example, let me give you a practical example. I'm holding my tea. So if you were to hold your tea, right, or anything, make it this. Let's use this as a better example. A little beanie bag. So if I were to ask you to pick this up, you could pick it up like this, or you could pick it up like this. What we're going to be doing today is starting to wipe the slate clean of how we use our body so that in everyday motions, we don't end up defaulting to picking up a beanie bag like this. And we can subtract the beanie bag with the instrument, okay? Now, for some people, it's not a matter of habit, it's a matter of setup, and I understand that. And setup is a bit of a different issue. Setup will be a little bit outside of what we're talking about, but yes, it is involved. What I'm going to be focusing on is general posture and alignment of the skeleton from the pelvis, from the feet, but let's talk more about the pelvis, mainly because we're going to be doing it seated. Most people play seated and practice seated. And then we're going to move into being more aware of your body and how you use your body without the instrument. And then we will go to the instrument, and then we'll go into specifics about shoulder, head, neck, face, and fingers, okay? With my story, you can see where I started off with playing with a lot of tension. The first place we need to start is with being more aware of your entire body. I know that we play the violin with our upper muscles. For a long time, I was not aware of anything below the waist. I didn't think anything below the waist was worth my time concerning myself, and this is not true. First of all, the most important thing we need to understand is that we are balanced on top of our feet, even when we are seated. Now, we're going to wipe the slate clean about everything that we know or feel in the body right now. I would like for you to join me in just feeling our body first. This is going to be our step one. So once we get comfortable with our body, then we're going to take the whole body as an entirety to the instrument. Everyone follow me? Yeah? Good. So we understand that we have to start with a fresh, clean slate with the body, so that before we even get to the violin, I want the whole body to start from a place of zero and neutral and comfort. First thing is, find your seat right now with me. When we play, it's important to have this, let's call this ground neutral. Ground neutral, let me see if I can describe to you some poor examples of not ground neutral. So you can see the lines that are compressed in the back. Some people will play hyperextended, and some people will play in their chair like this. So you can see that the lines of my sweater are compressed. If you're seated with this kind of posture, now do you see that my neck is this way? So now you see that the line of my spine is no longer neutral. This is going to cause problems because when we don't have a ground neutral, then you have muscles that are starting to work hard. Everyone follow me? Maybe type a yes, another yes. Does everyone follow me? Yeah, okay, cool. So when you go into this position, then the head, the neck is moving forward. Why is that so important? It's going to cause the head, which is quite heavy, like more than 10 pounds. So when you have the tiny muscles of your neck trying to hold your head, straining your head in one way or another, then it's going to cause pain. And then you're going to cause other muscles to start working too hard for you. So this is why we have to start from the foundation. If everyone can find your seat, whichever way you're seated, the first thing I would like everyone to do, your feet are going to be really, really important. So if we can find our feet, this is why people have heard me say that I no longer wear high heels. I want my feet to be flat and I want to feel the ground. So right now I don't have shoes on. I would like for you to find the feet on the ground. Okay, I'm going to simulate my feet. So if you start to push your feet this way and that way, you see how my spine is actually starting to move. Here's the direction of my spine. So if I push on my left foot, there, I can cause my body. Now, you're using your quadriceps, your leg muscle, and I'll release that. Okay, you can do that. Yes, thank you. I see people doing that with me. If you push on the right foot, push, then your spine. Now you see how you're pushing on your right quad, your leg, and your body will follow. You see that this is important. Now, guess what? The violin is attached to your spine. So now you see how you can use your legs when you play. So let's not forget that, remember me, my mistake was I did not consider anything below the waist when I played the violin. Now that's a big mistake, because we can actually start to find more relaxation and power from larger muscles. And the legs are quite powerful, as we know. So if we can find a way to lean into the instrument, remember the spine can move this way What if I push on my right leg and decide to come back? On my left leg, temporarily. So now I can just use my leg. There's my left leg pushing, there's my right leg pushing, okay? So now, as you do that, you're going to notice that there are two pelvis. Okay, your pelvis is here. If you feel here, you're going to find bones here. And then when you sit, there's two pointy bones called the sitz bones, S-I-T-Z, okay, or S-I-T-Z if you're an American. So when you sit, I would love for everyone to find these two sitz bones. These two sitz bones are so important because they will tell you where your ground neutral is, okay? Everyone type in ground neutral, okay? GN for ground neutral. I want you to remember that. We're going to find ground neutral because that's how we're going to find the least amount of pain. So when we come out of this class, I want everyone to remember, how can I play and find GN, ground neutral, okay, in anything, in your pelvis. We're starting out with our feet and pelvis, but we're going to work up. We're going to go up to the face and everything. Now that you find the two sitz bones, okay, so when you play, I would love for you to get intimate with your body. Can you feel those two bones? And find them. Now, I'm not saying that we have to be a statue when you play, because you're allowed to emote, and when you emote, you move. So if you're going to get expressive, you see how my leg moved me over here? I'm offline, right? I'm off center, back to center. There, now my two sitz bones are now even. Now, if I ask you to rock onto the right sitz bone, there, I'm off center. If you rock back to the left center, good. Now are you aware of your sitz bone? This is great. So now we're just drawing your attention. Your mind, your brain is now developing a stronger mind-body connection to your own body. Now you can use this knowledge when you play. We haven't moved up the torso yet. We're just getting intimate with the pelvis. Because as you can see, the rest of the upper torso is balanced on top of the pelvis. From the pelvis then rises your spine. Ready to move upwards? Okay. We're just talking about ground neutral first. Now, the spine is quite thick. Okay, look at the thickness of my fist. If you go right, kind of poke into your tummy here, it's going to be so, and you're going to feel the back, feel the bony part here, okay? This part of the spine is not what you're feeling. You're feeling the protrusions, right? You know what they look like, right? What a spine looks like. So what you're feeling on the back right there are these parts that stick out. Does that make sense? Yeah? Now, what I want you to think about is this core here. The core here is where I would like for you to picture. Deep, deep, deep. Where we're going to find the balance in our spinal column is in the thicker part, in the lumbar. The lumbar region is the thickest part of our spine. From there, you're going to get the most stability and sense of balance. Now, why do I say that? Because if you start, remember with the striped sweater, look at how my spine looks now. It's now protruding out this way. And now I've compressed. You can picture that these lines are your vertebrae stacked on top of each other. You've compressed the spine in this direction. And everyone knows that in between the spine, let's pretend these are my vertebrae, there's jelly discs, right, in here. When you compress the spine this way, these discs, they start to get compressed, okay? So now we want to make sure that you're finding that thick part of your spine, and there. Now you can see the lines of my sweater, right? Very important. So when you do the opposite, yes, squished. So now you're doing the opposite. You're now pressing the spine in the other direction. So I want you to imagine that when we find GN, ground neutral, picture the lines of the sweater and see if you can find that. Now, how we do this in my class, and people in my VIP class have done this with me. So what we're doing, have you found your sitz bones? Yeah? Find them again. Rock right to left. Find them again. Now, we've rocked side to side, but I would like to see if we can rock forward and back. So how we do this, if anyone's ever taken a Pilates class, what you do is you can rock by taking your pelvis. You put your thumb and your hand, boom, outside your hips. What you can do is you can rock the pelvis this way, so you're scooping your tummy. So the thumb is actually going down. If you bring it back to neutral, watch the lines of my sweater. Let me go back, see how it curls. Kind of gets tighter here in the front, the lines. Sorry, my hand's in the way. Okay, now the pelvis can rock back to neutral. Now the lines are straight. And then you can go the other way and rock the pelvis this way. So now the fingers are now going, so that's how you rock the pelvis forward and back. Forward and back. And before we did this way, right to left. Make sense? This is how we find your neutral in your spine through your pelvis. First thing, ground neutral. Find your sitz bones, rock, 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 side to side. Then you can start rocking forward, sticking at your tummy, sticking at your back. Yeah? If you do this with me, this also feels very nice on the lower back, because if you have lower back pain, like I did, doing this will help alleviate because you're starting to mobilize that area. Yes, it's a nice stretch and nice mobilization at the same time. Okay, when you find too much one way and go through the center and go too much the other way, okay, then we're going to find where, start to meet in the middle. Try to find where it is in the middle. And in the middle, your striped sweaters, your vertebrae will be perfectly aligned. You see that is compressed here in my sweater, and that's compressed here in my sweater. Does that make sense? Yeah? That was part 2 or 3 of ground neutral. We started with the feet, find your feet, left, right. Then move up the legs, go to the pelvis, the sits bones, left, right, and then forward, back. That's part 2 of ground neutral. Everyone with me? Now we're going to keep going up. Now that we have a sense of the lower part, we're going to keep going up the spine from the lumbar region. We can now use the image of the striped sweaters. It also helps to get a sense of your ribs. So the ribs, you can feel them. They're right here. Oftentimes, actually it's really funny because we're going to do a breathing exercise to help you get in contact with the intercostal muscles of your ribs. So in between, if you put your fingers here, when you inhale, I would love for everyone to take a big inhale by holding here. You want the sensation that your ribs are expanding forward from your fingers, side of your ribs, and at the back where your thumbs are. Yeah? So when you inhale, take an inhale. Yes, it should look like this when you inhale, and exhale. Can everyone sense that? Yeah? Breathing is going to be a big part of this as well. Everyone in my VIP class knows that I start all of my classes with breathing. And we do that to reconnect our bodies with our breath and our breath with our bodies. And also to connect the mind and body connection. So if everyone can just join me in a fundamental breathing reminder. When you breathe, the lungs are quite big actually, back here. You want to make sure that you're breathing to the deepest part of your lungs, so not just up in the upper lungs. You want the lungs to go and push. There's a diaphragmatic muscle here. When you inhale, that diaphragm gets squished, kind of, and then when you exhale, yeah, so the lungs are like big sacs that push down. So when you take a breath with me now. Feel the ribs. You're in GN, right? You're in ground neutral. This is important. As we play the violin, I want you to remember how this feels to breathe from the back. The backs of your ribs, the sides of your ribs, and the fronts of your ribs. So you're aiming to get the breath lower and lower. Remember this as you breathe. So if we practice this now without the instrument, this will become easier when you get the instrument into your hands. This is why we're starting without the instrument. Now, breath will also give you more oxygen. So breath is also very important, not just for wind players, but for string players as well. Remember that our muscles need oxygen to deliver the notes. So when you get the mechanics of the breathing right, you're going to deliver more oxygen to your brain and to your muscles. Better stamina, less tension. If you don't give enough oxygen to the muscles, then you're going to be asking your muscles to work harder because they're not getting enough supply. All right, so breathing is going to be a big part of this. We can try breathing when we play the violin as well. Now we're going to keep moving up. We're going to move into the upper part of our neck. This is where many of us hold a lot of tension, me included. Let's take a look at the shoulders. Put your fingers on top of your shoulders. Just raise one shoulder. Doesn't matter, left or right. You see now the line? Let's just take a look at my lines here, right? Now let's raise the other shoulder, the right one. Okay, so now you see what muscle is raising the shoulders. I want everyone to understand how this is happening. There's muscles here, levator scapulae, okay? So, and the upper trapezius. These muscles, if you put your hands behind here, this is where a lot of violinists have a lot of tension. And this is where I actually have my troubles when I played with no shoulder rest. I was chronically contracting this muscle. And I didn't know. Here's another thing I would like for all of us to remember. When we have muscle tension and pain, it's because we're not aware of what's happening. So the first step in correcting a problem like this for technique or tension is to become aware. We can't fix something unless we first become aware. This is why we're doing these exercises now. I would like for you to get in touch with the different parts of your body. When you get in touch with them, then you start to become aware. I use this word a lot in my teaching. A for awareness. When you start to become aware, then you have a chance to start changing it. So keep doing this with me, up and down, raising up. So you see the lines on my sweater, yeah? And then slowly, there's neutral. You see neutral? I'm approaching neutral. You can see I'm approaching neutral. Okay, now I want you to do an exercise with me and pull it down even further. Watch the lines on my sweater. Now I'm yanking. Okay, that's past neutral. Remember, GN, right? Ground neutral. We can't play violin like this, so allow it to come back to neutral. And then maybe go past. Keep doing this. Just explore very slowly. Keep breathing. Don't forget to breathe. Let me share you the story with when I played a recital in 2008. I was very nervous for it. It was at my hometown in Newfoundland, St. John's, Newfoundland. The next day after this recital, my left glute, my gluteus maximus, was so sore as if I had done 3 hours of single leg squats after a recital. So what I mean by being aware, I was not aware of me clenching my left butt the whole recital for 2 hours. 2 hours. I left the left gluteus maximus tight for 2 hours. This is what I mean by me not being aware. Now, if I was aware, if I had trained my body to connect with that muscle, I could say, can you loosen? Can you loosen? Can you loosen? While I'm playing the violin. Okay, so it's the same as this. Do you pick up this with like this, or are you aware that you have a habit? Let's pretend here you're playing the violin. I want you to you can put the real violin if you like, but this is really important. This is very common, and so is this. Okay, you can tell with the lines of my sweater look off. Yeah, you can tell, and you can see that I'm very uncomfortable looking. So if we do the same exercise, all right, many of you talk about left shoulder. Let's go down with the, so if you can see this is up, you see the lines of the sweater going up. I want you to now allow that to come down and maybe pretend you're going to yank it down. This is me yanking it down. You can do that with the violin if you like, right? This is too far, and now I'm pushing, I mean, you can't really see from this angle, but now I'm going to pull it down too much. It's a very small movement. Okay, that's too much. So while I'm playing my scales, I do train myself or remind myself to feel where the shoulder is, or the neck. It's actually the neck, right? All the neck muscles. So these neck muscles are gripping, right? So we can talk about that too as well, the front of the neck getting too tired. So, but let's just get in touch with the trapezius and the levator scapula. So you see my shoulder going up and going down. You can do this when you play the violin too. Just an open string with me. Go up, play too tight. As an exercise, play too tight. And while you do that, I can sense that the back of my neck is getting tight as well. So the tension starts to add everywhere. And I also, if you just check in with your pelvis, are you in ground neutral with your pelvis? I can tell right now, I wish I could show you my feet, but my feet are not aligned anymore, and I'm now sitting on my right sits bone more than my left. So if I'm aware of that, I will correct that. Now I'm moving my feet, and now I'm shifting my sits bone. Now I'm in 50-50, left, right, and sits bones. Okay, this is how we get to GN. Remember GN, we're going to walk out of this workshop talking about GN all the time. Okay, so now I'm going to intentionally raise the shoulder and lower it. You can do this at home too. Do the right side now. Now bring that down. One note at a time. We're going to learn how to find GN, ground neutral. So when you start to do open strings and scales, do it very slowly. So when I change from down bow to up bow, do I have a habit of that? Check in. When I do this down bow to that, do I have a habit of going to one side of my pelvis? Do I have a habit of going out of GN with my back? Just check in with all the places that we discovered in part 1 and part 2 of our ground neutral exploration. We'll keep moving up the body as well. Okay, Bridget says I do stuff like that actually. I will notice myself crushing my shoulders up. Yes. Should the violin be parallel to the ground in ground neutral? Yeah, actually, Rob, that's a good question. Yes. You will see this. This is too high. And this is too low. I mean, I know some people play like this, but this is about matter of setup. Let's talk about the face and the neck too. So now that we found this up here, let's talk also now. It's important to find the wood. So let me tap right here. You want that to hit bone. So if you just touch here on the clavicle, see how my finger's hooking onto my clavicle here? This is your shelf. So I always remind myself to put Jennifer Johnson is one of my colleagues and good friends. I've known her for 30 years. She's a body mapping instructor. You will find her interview on my YouTube channel, Prevent Pain and Injury with Body Mapping. I want you to all take a look at this interview on my YouTube channel. My VIP students have access to her workshop in my VIP program, and for the VIP students, I would like for you to watch that workshop. But I want you to take away this concept that the wood of your instrument needs to be on the shelf of your bone, wood against bone, as Jennifer taught. So if you find that right there, see how my head is in neutral as well. So let's call that neutral as well, GN. You'll often see a lot of novice players reaching their head. Now let's talk about the head moving forward As soon as I move my head forward, you can tell that my voice will start to change. So if I start doing this, you can tell that my voice sounds a little bit different. And they'll put the face and the head forward, and I'll make it more pronounced by jutting out my chin. And so that might look a little bit like this. Okay, so now we're going to look at the head. We stopped at the shoulders. Let's keep going. Then we'll start looking at the hands and fingers. So let's keep going here. So we stopped at the clavicle. We have the bone against the wood. I wish my clavicle made that noise, but it doesn't. That's what you want, that contact there. So the other point of contact, the violin will sit here, and the other point of contact is between the side of your thumb and the bottom of your index finger, there. So this becomes almost like a cup holder. Boop. So now if I take off the third point of contact, so this is 1, this is 2 and 3, and I guess this is point 4. So this is the last point of contact here. So what are we going to do with the head, right? Some people, as I said, will start to, my voice starts to change too, as you can see. Yeah, and my face will look a little funny. So let's find ground neutral for the head, and you can see that the neck is going to be stretched out here. This is not comfortable, and my voice doesn't sound good either. So let's take away the violin for a second. So muscle tension. Muscle tension is going to come from all the places of not GN, not ground neutral. So let's find GN first, and then we'll start talking about muscle tension. Let's find how we can eliminate tension in the neck. We first start with ground neutral here. So let's find the AO joint, atlanto-occipital joint. So find your ears, and also find the jaw, but like kind of behind the back of the jaw, but we're going to go through the ears, so sort of ear holes here, okay? Yeah, actually behind your earlobes. So you're just going to poke, I'm poking behind my ears. This is actually the top of your spine. So if you touch in the back of your neck here, feel the vertebrae. Okay, so I have some bony parts here. Go ahead and feel them. Bone, bone, bone. Keep going, keep going. Bone, 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 bone. Feels really high. Then you hit the base, the cranium, right? So that's how high your spine goes all the way up. Now, picture a bowling ball. Picture your bowling ball head perched on top. This is how we're going to find ground neutral for your head. So if your head is going to be too forward, too back, or too this way, too that way, then you're taking it off ground neutral. So one side will be stretched, one side will be contracted. Same thing here. When you go this way, you can hear it in my voice box too. All these muscles will be strained because they're trying to hold or support this big bowling ball which is falling forward. And vice versa, if we're this way, right? Now you're compressing this part of your spine. If you can, breathe with me here, right? And as you breathe, see if you can find length. So picturing all these vertebrae here getting longer, 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 like you're a ballet dancer. So as if I took a string from the top of your head, and you keep breathing with me. Deep breaths here. Remember to find depth and width and breadth in your rib cage, but also length in your cervical spine. This will help in the violin too, for those of you who have really tight necks when you play, so that when you have this pattern, you can see my neck. Can you see it now? Everyone can see that, right? I look a little bit compressed. Yeah. You can do that with me. Become a turtle. And then you can put your violin and look like a turtle. You can see the extremes. So how do we get rid of this muscle tension? So breathe. Right? Now, you're just using breath to help expand parts of your body. Yeah, breathe with me here. Just breathe and feel expansion. Use the breath as if you're a balloon. Okay, and now this balloon is helping you expand this way. Yeah? So then after you find this GN, this ground neutral for your head, okay? So if you take your head forward in space, this is, you can hear it, it's not ground neutral, and vice versa. Okay? Then we can place that there. Now, you see there's a little bit of gap here. Everyone has a little bit of gap, that's fine. I actually experimented with cradle chin rest. Tanya and Kirit, people, my VIP students who live in Toronto, they have come and borrowed it. And it didn't work for me, but it was too high and it made me too rigid. When you watch Jennifer Johnson's interview on my channel, you will see her talk about shoulder rest and chin rest. So for me, I bought this custom chin rest from Peter Purich outside of Montreal. We went through a whole bunch and tried a bunch. So this is the one that worked for me. Now everyone is unique and everyone will need something different. Everyone's proportions are different, so we have to be mindful that everyone is very, very different in their setup. So I won't be an expert on setup, but I will be helping you understand how you can start to detect your own patterns of tension. What we know now about the head is that it's very heavy. So we can actually, I like to call this, you're going to donate, just temporarily donate some of the weight of your head, not the chin. Okay, bring that back the chin into neutral. And what I do is I gently tip from remember the AO joint. The AO joint's in here. So what you can do to find that AO joint is you put the fingers behind your earlobes. If you slightly nod, keeping the head long head, long neck, you gently tip. This is from the AO joint, rather than this is not from the AO joint. Does that make sense? So the AO joint is a lot higher. So instead of squishing the neck forward, long neck, and then from here, almost if I'm going to put a chopstick right through here, you're going to nod from this chopstick. That's your AO joint. If everyone can find that, so GN and AO joint. So from that AO joint, it's almost like you're very noble. From here, you can nod, yes, no, yes and no, very up high. And this is the place where you can donate some of your head tension rather than compressing. If you want to do that turtle exercise with me, or turtle movement, this is compression. You can hear my voice changing. And this is not from the AO joint. Bring it up. You can do this with me, okay? So this is where I would like for everyone to feel. Let's review. Feet, feel your feet, left, right. Feel your sits bones, left, right. Shuffle back and forth. Rock back, forward and back. Then sense the big, thick lumbar spine. It's very thick. You're going to balance so that the vertebrae are not compressed on the front, back, side. You want to find everything equal. Go up through the breastbone, rib cage, all the way up. Find the length in the neck all the way up to the AO joint. Everyone feel good? And then you put the wood on bone, and then the cradle here, there, resting point here, and this patch of skin underneath your chin is what's going to secure. It's not going to clamp. When we're talking about supporting the instrument, what you want to do is temporarily donate some of the heavy weight of your head, just temporarily. And if you need to shift, if you need to vibrate, this patch of skin is where your head is going to donate. It's like an imprint here. And then a micro moment, if everyone recalls, I had micro moments in the symphony or a concert. Let's say I need to, temporarily I need to donate some of my head. And then I find a moment to take it away. And I can still get the same sound. Try that with me if you like. Feel what it feels like to rest the wood against the bone here, there, and take away that fourth contact point here. So the contact point here is the third contact point here, the thumb, collarbone, and the jaw, the print of the jaw here. The print of the jaw is just there to stabilize the violin so it doesn't slip off my shoulder. And I can still vibrate. We're going to talk about vibrato tension as well. You can notice that I'm doing it very slowly so that I can maintain my GN. Yeah, if I start to sense anything, if I get excited in the music, or something's really hard. People say that when the music is hard, they get tense. Me too. When I'm practicing new music for a rehearsal in the coming week, it gets hard for me too. And guess what? My neck starts to get tight as well. So I'm not impervious to these patterns as well. I have to learn that when I have something that's really hard that I'm practicing, I get tight. I look like this too. I literally detect it. And I start to get tight in the back here. So when I detect that I have my ground neutral off, I slowly remind myself, breathe. And fine, right back to the feet, right back to the pelvis, right up to spine, and feel the length in the neck. And sometimes I do this too. I turn side by side. We had Jenna smiling in class, so if you want, you can join me in the smile. And that helps you if you have patterns of, keep going with your exploration, but this is a matter of you getting faster with detecting things in your body. So this is why we started away from the instrument. You getting comfortable and intimate and more in touch with being inside your body. Yes, Bridget, I started clenching my jaw. Oh my God. Me too. Many people too. So I think there's me, Jenna, I have Naomi in Australia who has a pattern in her shoulder, her right shoulder, that we're working on right now. So if this looks familiar to anybody, or spiccato, or it can be chicken wing. I've seen chicken wing too. That's chicken wing. Okay? So this is what I mean by tension. When we get more and more in tune with where you have tension patterns in your body, then we want you to get faster and faster and faster to get to ground neutral. Let's go into vibrato, because I know a lot of people talked about vibrato. This will be forearm tension, okay? So I hope I've covered most of the ground here. Feet, pelvis, spine. Okay, so we go up to the lungs for breathing, and then we went into the neck and shoulder region and the atlanto-occipital joint. Now let's move into the arms. Forearm tension for me was something called co-contracting. What does that mean? You have flexors, that's a flexion. You have extensors, it's an extension. So this is a flexion, extension, flexion, extension, flexion, extension. But if I contract this one at the same time as this one, so if you go, that's a co-contraction. So if I ask you to put your fingers on the instrument and co-contract, just squeeze with me. So this will happen for me as well as everybody. So let's say you're doing a chord, a full chord, no. Or I can feel it. This is tight here and this is tight in the back. So that for full chords, double stops, triple stops, chords, yes, you're going to find some tension. Why is that? Because we're built with opposable thumbs, right? We're primates with opposable thumbs. We cannot pick up a mug without an opposable thumb. We need a counter pressure from this side to this side. So that's why we will have some degree of pressure and squeezing of this. So this is where we get into what I call the subtraction game. Let's say play a chord. Let's make it this one. That's only 2 notes really, just one, right? So if we're going to play this, what I'm going to ask you is to play the subtraction game with me. Meaning that when you put your fingers down, people mention finger tension as well. Let's make it in tune first. How much can you subtract from this and still get a decent sound? Let's start with the most basic and most important thing, this. All right? Yes, I know we need this as a counter pressure, but how much of this can we subtract? See, I can actually wiggle my thumb. See, I'm subtracting squeeze by wiggling the thumb. Okay, so then also with the pressure of the fingers, see how much you can go from, let's say, a pressure of terrible sound, but this is full bow pressure. You can do this with me. Start from above the string, so 0 pressure. Pressure of 1, 2, sounds terrible. 3, let's get in there. 4 and 5. And if I want to press even harder, 6, 7. So I want you to play the subtraction game. If you want to play a scale, it can be a simple scale. Play with a pressure of 1. Sounds terrible, right? And now I can see that my back is trying to tighten. So see how my stripes on my sweater are looking funny? Ground neutral game as well as the subtraction game. Find your finger pressure. There, that's about a finger pressure of 3.5 and still getting a decent sound. Now notice when you get that finger pressure, feel how much you're squeezing or not squeezing in your extensors and your flexors. This is one note. If you want to add a double stop, there's a double stop. There's another double stop. It's another double stop. It's getting harder with 4th finger. Now, if you want to play this game, you can add, instead of subtraction game, you can do addition. Let's add pressure, add tension, add tightness. And then subtract it. Subtract, subtract, subtract. It's too much. So let me go back. There. So this is what I mean when you can play this subtraction game in the middle of a concert. But first start off with open strings and scales and slow practice. And then when you get more and more accustomed to playing this game of subtraction, you can start doing it in the middle of a rehearsal, in the middle of a concert, yeah? Or in the middle of a note. It can be... I went too far, clearly, right? I need some of that pressure. There. Too little pressure. There. That's enough. If I squeeze too much, there, that's too much. So you can see where I crossed the line. I would like for you to all start to be aware of this. Now, start off with scanning your body and just being able to detect when you squeeze. If you played one note with me, if you actually tighten it too much, take it away. Tighten it too much, take it away. You can do that with your shoulder. You can do it with your face. So if you want to play a scale like this, you feel free. But the thing is, you don't need this to play a scale. So if I ask my eyes to relax, there. I'm also letting go of my trapezius. Now, if we go deeper into the facial muscles, wiggle your jaw, smile, relax the smile, frown, relax those muscles. Okay, subtraction. You're just subtracting all the muscle you don't need. Open the jaw, turn your head, wiggle your shoulders, move from sitz bone to sitz bone. Okay, so now we've covered a bit of vibrato. So when you're doing vibrato and forearm tension, what you can do is start from the neck and the pectoral muscle, so that when you're playing, be conscious of how much finger pressure you're using. You may need to start with one note, and very slow vibrato exercises to train the finger to unlearn. Yeah, when you're starting to play expressively, or something, I don't know, I'm making something up. So what can you do? You want to play loudly. Loudly doesn't mean that we have to tighten here. Yes, you may feel like you have an urge to, but I bet if you continue to play the subtraction game, you can get power on your right side. We'll cover this side in a second. But then subtract in the left hand. That's a pressure of maybe 1. That's not enough. 2. That's about 3. And I can get power on this side. And then freedom, so I feel like the bone and the wood here, and I can relax the shoulder. So this is tight. Subtract. Watch my shoulder. Subtract. Tight. Relax. Tight. Relax. So you can see that I'm getting the same D, 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 but without the tight, 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 tight. Does that make sense? You can play this D all day, all day, all day, all day, all day, tight. But I tell you, the person who plays this D like this, relax, will last longer than you. So play the subtraction game when you play. Meaning that if you can play this D without doing this, without doing that, without doing that, and without doing that, I'm still playing the same D, but I'm going to get muscle tension. And that means I will have trouble shifting. Right? If I'm loose, this is tight, this is loose. Now from a place of ground neutral, you can also tell that my sound is opening up. Can you tell? Let me tighten my face. And I'll tighten my right levator scapula. Okay? I'm going to tighten my left glute just for old nostalgic sake. There. Okay? Oh, my face actually, I want to tighten my glute and my face tightened. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so now you can see the sweaters. They're not the sweater lines. Can you see that? Okay, I'm getting tight. And my sound is actually, to me, my ears, it's starting to get a little more beginner sounding. Yeah? Okay, now if I go back to ground neutral, I'm going to release my left leg. Here we go. Left leg, left leg, left leg. There. Now my sweater lines are starting to align. Does anyone hear my sound changing? Okay, it's starting to change. My back is still very tight, by the way. The shoulder blades. Okay, so I'm going to relax in that area. Breathe, Lynn. Does anyone hear my sound changing? I hear a little bit more resonance coming out of my sound. Does anyone else hear that? Yeah? Maybe type a yes in the chat for me. Yeah, Jenna hears it. Good. My point is your sound can improve. Just as easy as that. We don't even have to do tone exercises. All we need to do is start to look. Am I in ground neutral? Am I playing the subtraction game? Am I using muscles that I don't need to make the sound? So you can start to hear this on your own. Play your scales. Do the tightening game. Listen to your sound. Do the subtraction game. Listen to your sound. Does it change? Does it get better? I tell you that when you start playing these subtraction games, you're going to start to hear, my violin likes this, okay? If I start tightening, even that just changed my sound. Just this. It's not got thinner. Actually, I heard the thinness. I'll tighten. It's starting to croak a little bit. Just doing that. I'm not changing vibrato. I'm not changing bow technique. I'm just Lifting and raising the shoulder. You see how this is so important? Finding your neutral and subtracting tension when you don't need it. So leaving this workshop, find ground neutral, play the subtraction game. These are 2 takeaways that you can take right away. Get to know your body. Get to scan the body away from the instrument and then with the instrument. So what you can do is a very simple progressive muscle relaxation exercise. I learned this many, many years ago. You can do this with me now without the instrument. Let's just start with the hands, okay? Let's form fists. Just take these fists and squeeze them. So if I were to ask you to release thumb first, then this first finger, breathe, relax the middle finger, the ones with my rings on them. Breathe, keep breathing with me. Maybe breathe with, release the fourth finger. This is a progressive muscle relaxation in your hands. So now I'm still feeling a little tight. I feel it tight here. Does anyone else feel that? Yeah? So breathe into your forearms, breathe into the flexors, breathe into the extensors. And my ribs are really tight as well. Breathe into your ribs. Now you see my spine is actually starting to respond. Before I was like this, go back with me, squeeze. And now you can tell that when I squeeze this, my torso is also tightened up. Now release everything. Actually, my glutes loosened. Did anyone else feel their glutes loosened? Irene feels it? Yes. You see how this is a good skill for you. When we want to figure out why am I so tight, start to scan your body. It's really cool. Play with me if you want, pick up your instrument. Start scanning the right side. We did a lot on the left. Let's do the right side. Okay, so for people with bow issues, and let's say détaché, that looks like chicken wing. See how tight I look? Okay, so this is going to be a pain point for a lot of people. Okay, so keep bowing an open string. I'm just doing an A string. Join me in tightening your right neck. Maybe even lift your shoulder. Just tighten it and keep playing. Oh, see, I get croaky. So the shaky bow, you see how my bow went shaky as soon as I tighten? People will say, I get shaky bow when I'm nervous. People coming to me in my VIP program will hear me talk about nerves, right? Nerves and controlling your shakes will also mean getting better control of your body. So when people study with me in my program, we learn to strengthen the connection and the control you have of your mind over your body. And you can take this, a mental note of this as well, if you want to write this down. The connection between your mind and body is through the breath. And the connection between your body to your mind is also through the breath. So as you're doing a bow, can you remember the ribs? Do you remember what we did in the beginning of class? The breath will help you find less tension. And my sound is actually better. Now, if I ask you to tighten up the ribs, tighten, there. My sound just decreased a little bit. It got a little slower and tighter. So let me see if I can fix that. I'm still tightening my ribs. Tighten with me. Just tighten. Just get them contracted and tight. Almost like you're wearing a corset. And now my face is actually tightening too. Now tighten your right side here. Okay, as soon as I did that, I crunched. Okay? Now, how do we get out of this? Breathe first. Breathe into the ribs. Inhale. Expand the ribs. Now my sound is actually improving. Can everyone hear that? Yeah? You can hear my sound improving? Okay, now I'm actually tightening the shoulder. Yes, Jory says yes. Okay. Oh, Anne misses that? Yes, okay. I guess you were talking about missing the breathing? Yeah. Or the class. Okay, so now if you have a free neck and the shoulder, now I would love to get to the next point of my muscle tension exploration. Bow problems. Shaky bow, spiccato, anything that's problematic with the bow, including too much involvement with the fingers. Some people come to me with... They do. They have spiccatos that look like this. If you look carefully, okay, with my teacher eyes, I can see on the Zoom that this part here, my shoulder, is not moving. And it's stiff. It's just this. Right now, I'll tell you what it feels like around this right here is tight. Okay, how do we get out of that? So what I discovered for me is that if I go to larger muscles, remember how we started with the legs? If you're going to walk away from this workshop with anything that's going to help, start to look at bigger muscle groups. This is not a big muscle group right here, the fingers. Okay, so for bow technique and tension for your technique, I promise you ways to improve your violin technique. Do a scan of your bigger muscles. You may need to go down to the legs and the glutes and the abs, the torso, the back. But for this purpose, I would like for everyone to start thinking of your back. Come just think with me, visualize the right shoulder blade, picture it, and put your left hand on it if you like. Now, I want you to move your arm. if you do this properly, you're going to feel your left shoulder blade moving with it. This is because your arm, your shoulder blade is part of your arm. It is one movement. The shoulder blade then actually comes and meets this is the clavicle, it begins here at the sternoclavicular joint. If you travel along the sternoclavicular joint, it keeps going, it keeps going, it keeps going, and it actually does meet. I can't remember exactly what it looks like, but it does connect to the shoulder blade. When you move your bow arm, this is involved, the clavicle, right? The collarbone, as also known as the collarbone. And if you move it forward and back, you're going to feel the shoulder blade moving with it. So when I ask you to think of your back, you're going to free your back. Now, look at my arm. Now you see the arm moving? Okay, if you start to move from the shoulder blade, picture the shoulder blade floating. This is floating on top of the backs of your ribs. Yes, okay, that's great. So when you start to bow, if you want to return to the instrument with me, now bow and just think of the back. Again, we're focusing on larger muscles, not tiny muscles. A bow arm is not bow fingers. A bow arm is an arm, a whole arm. So I like to picture myself like an octopus. You know what an octopus looks like? It's very strong, is very thick at the end, near the body, and then becomes very, very flexible at the end. So this part of your octopus tentacles is not doing the work. It's the strong part of the octopus tentacle, if that makes sense. So if you bow from this feeling of freedom from the back, here, I'm going to wiggle my shoulder blade for you to see. Think of it as being lubricated and floating. I almost like to think of it as a tectonic plate, right? You know, the tectonic plate floats on the mantle of the Earth's surface. The shoulder blade can float over your rib cage. And you breathe. Tanya likes the geography. Great. Jory likes that. Great. Okay. Aaron, yes. Okay. So, do you hear my sound now? Very different when I have a free shoulder blade and the free trapezius and levator scapula. Okay. If you want, go back to the left side. Do that scan too. Right? If you want to scan both sides, feel the left shoulder blade. I'm going to check in with my sitz bones. Am I in ground neutral? GN. Oh, my back might have gone into hyperextension. It might have gone into a slouch. Keep finding, yes, that's it. Okay, so now you can tell that my technique or my sound is improving just by doing that. And I didn't even tell you about bow technique at all, about the variables of sound, pressure, contact point, speed. We didn't even talk about that. We just corrected ground neutral. Does everyone see how muscle tension can sabotage your technique? If you see that, maybe type yes in the chat. I think it's important for us to recognize this. What gets written down gets remembered. Okay, good. We're all on the same page. Fantastic. So, right. Now, before we have Q&A, I think I've covered just about everything. Let me do a recap, because everyone in my VIP class knows I like to do recaps, because you might walk away from this workshop and say, I don't know what I learned. It was all overwhelming. Lynn just spat out a lot of information. I don't remember a single thing. Okay. That's why I like to do a recap, okay? Let me do a test, quick pop quiz. What's the first thing that we covered? Type in the chat. What do you remember? GN, good. I came up with that today, GN, ground neutral. Yeah, good. Good, pop quiz. Feet, thank you, Ko. Yes, and GN, good. Jory, feet. Valeria, yes. Valeria, pardon me. Is it I can't remember how to say it. Anyway, pardon me. Ground neutral, good. When you want to work on muscle tension in your playing, go back to the basic. Go back to building your house. It's like building a house, your foundation. Drew, oh, bonus points. AO, plate tectonics. Breath, yes, your feet. Jenna, tensing different parts of the body affects the sound. Yes, it does. Thank you, Jenna. Does everyone remember what Jenna just wrote? Tensing different parts of your body affects your sound. Write that one down, okay? You're going to take a quote from this workshop, tweet that for me. Put that on in your Instagram, put that on your Facebook. The one thing I took away from Lynn's workshop is when you tense a body part, it affects your sound, okay? Mary says to breathe and smile. Yes, Jenna, that's for you. We did that in class with Jenna. I had Jenna smiling, all right? Yeah? Okay. Now, this is a great recap. What else did we learn? Feet, spine, sits bones. That's the lower part of the body. Don't forget the lower part of your body. Next thing I want you to remember, point number 2, breath. The connection between your mind and your body and the body to your mind is your breath. Tweet that one. Someone quickly write that down for me in the chat. The connection from your mind to your body and the body to your mind is your breath. Okay, the next thing I will talk about is weight of the head and finding the AO joint, finding neutral. All right? So, bow arm technique. For everyone here, you can go into my YouTube channel and find the tutorial on string crossings, I believe it is. And I have 10 points to, I think, a couple of points to fix your string crossings. The bonus point is this one that I just shared with you. When you want to fix anything in your bow technique, type in the chat. What are you going to look for? What are you going to be aware of? Oh, Aaron, the octopus. Thank you, Aaron. Good job. Think of your bow technique as if you're an octopus and it comes from the larger muscles. Thank you, Kitty. Yes, so when you're bowing, always go back to your back. Another tip, write this one down, armpit. Space and take WD-40 or some kind of grease into your armpit, okay? When you want to find good bow technique, start to grease the shoulder blade, the tectonic plate, and start to find a grease and fluidity in your octopus armpit. Yes, we're going to find octopus armpits, okay? Yes. All right, so we have very limited time for Q&A. I apologize. But let me share with you an opportunity. I'm going to be offering a chance for all of you to sign up for a free call with me. If you want to take this kind of information further, I work on this kind of exploration and technical transformation with my VIP students on a one-on-one and group basis. So if my class appeals to you today, you can get into my class inside the VIP coaching program, and I can help look at the way you play. I can start looking at your back, your neck. I can do this very, very easily over Zoom. What I do is I look at your repertoire, whether it's an orchestra excerpt, your audition excerpt list, your concerto, your pieces, anything that you're learning for an exam, so something that you've always wanted to learn. It could be anything you're working on in orchestra or for a recital. I start to take a look at the way you're playing and see why is it not going the way you like. Is it because of tension? Is it because you learned a habit that just needs to be unlearned? We start from ground zero and I help you unpack that and then relearn it. Okay, so we have things here. This is really great. Tanya, VIP is really awesome. This is great. So much information. Anne says the best thing I ever did. Don't hesitate. Oh, thank you. Tanya, let me finish reading Tanya. So much information is included in the videos, in sessions with Lynn, and in weekly sessions with everyone else who is in the course too. It's like a lovely circle of friends all trying to accomplish similar things. Thank you so much. Oh, Jana, thank you. Lynn is great. For me, it's the accountability that's super important. Lynn's very thorough with every single detail about your playing. Oh, thank you. So this is an opportunity. If you would like to go further, my VIP coaching program is a 12-week intensive coaching program. Like Tanya said, and Jenna said, it gives you accountability. It gives you a group with people who are very much like you and very serious about improving the violin. I'm very serious, but I'm also a lot of fun. I hope you can see that. But I love detail and I love improving. And if you're the type of person that likes to do that in a group like me, with like-minded people with me, I am opening a few spots in my program. Just so you know, there's about 7 people on the wait list for this spring, so spots do disappear quickly. If you are interested, then what I recommend is you book a call with me. It's free. And we see about how we might fit you in if you're a good fit. I put the link into the chat. Cole, thank you so much. My Lynn is so good with everything related to technique and body awareness. Thank you. Aaron, thank you. It's really holistic and very positive. Such a wonderful environment to be part of. Lynn is amazing. Thank you so much. And Kitty says here, hearing Lynn's feedback to other VIP class members was very interesting and educational too. Okay, just FYI before we move into the Q&A really quickly, because National Ballet of Canada is going into another season of performances, my schedule is jam-packed. I'm cramming now. Actually, I'm playing concertmaster solos. I'm playing on 2 violins, actually, which is tuned down. Oh, I would show you in a second. You want me to show you? The Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, we're playing Queen of Hearts is a violin tuned, a tune semitone up. So I'm playing some solos that are tuned on a scordatura violin. So that's what I've been practicing, and my neck is killing me. So I'm practicing all this stuff that I'm teaching you as well, just trying to make sure that I don't get too tight as well. Drew's asking a very good question. What skill level and proficiency is Group 12 week geared for? Very good question. I typically focus the best with advanced violinists. I don't tend to work with beginning violinists. I have in the past, but I feel like other teachers are much, much, much better at teaching beginners. I feel like I don't do as well with beginners. I do much better with people who are set up already and want to refine. So if you consider yourself advanced, maybe even intermediate, upper intermediate, we can have a discussion and we can get you into the class. Kitty was in my class for a long time. Kitty is a bluegrass player. I've had people who are amateur violinists, intermediate player. So if you consider yourself very conscientious, astute, willing to learn, open-minded, and you love a fun, supportive environment, this is the group to be in. Okay, so we only have a few minutes for Q&A. How to maintain neutral free of tension at fast string change, not just back and forth, but all over the place, and in general, just fast passages. For example, I'm playing Haydn G major concerto and super tired even after 20 minutes. Everything is tense. Could not play without tensing up. So this is going back to practicing the subtraction game. So we start the subtraction game by going in slow motion on open strings, scales. So when I'm playing something slow, I just check in with my face. Oh, I found my tongue or face tensing up. You just practice on a daily basis. So it's kind of like any skill that you practice on a daily basis. When you're under pressure, then your old habits will creep in. So when anyone is nervous, it's kind of like your real self comes out when you're nervous. So when something is really hard, you normally will tense. I do too. So when it's hard for me, I also get tense. So you just have to slow down because the technical difficulty is too much for me. I get tight, and that's called stress. That's what stress is. It's a fight or flight response. Fight means it's too hard for you. Too hard means it's stressful. It's a cognitive perception of the difficulty. So this is something we can learn more about in my VIP coaching. We talk about stress and fear and decreasing fear. When you decrease your fear, then you actually decrease your stress. When you decrease stress, then you start to lose the fight or flight response. When something is difficult for you, slow it down and play the subtraction game. If it's really hard, subtract. Right? Just subtract. Slow down and just check in. Maybe you need to turn on an alarm on your phone. Bing! Just check in. Am I on sitz bones? Am I on ground neutral? Is my face? How's my head? AO joint? Just check in. All the points that we covered in this class. Doing this as a practice, almost like meditation practice. So now you're going to treat playing the violin like a meditation. Am I breathing? You'll see that my sound gets a little more open as soon as I breathe. Hypermobility and stability. Oh, that's a good question. Hypermobility is an issue because when you're hypermobile, then your joints are very loose. And because people who have really loose joints, they have to work harder. So that's a complicated question. You're going to have to consult with a physiotherapist. How do you train your pinky joint to be more flexible for vibrato? My pinky seems too dependent on the ring finger. Train your pinky joint to be more flexible for vibrato. This is going to come from my 7 best vibrato exercises, which you'll find on YouTube. But you can definitely train the knuckle collapse, as you can see here, right? That's one of the best ones. And also I call this the hook, and this comes from Simon Fisher. He calls it Pinocchio's nose. You're pulling the nose and bringing it back. So if you work on the range of motion, and while I'm doing this, I'm going to do a subtraction game and body scan. So this is too much on one sitz bone, so I'll move back to both. And now you can see, I can do a vibrato workshop on another day. Okay, would anyone like to see a vibrato workshop? Maybe say V. Anna, great question. Is it useful to create a body warm-up routine before practice? What exercises would you recommend? Excellent question. Can I answer this question by saying go to my YouTube channel, and there is best warm-ups for violin. I won't do them now because I only have 4 minutes. I'm sorry, but you will find that on my YouTube channel, and that's the warm-up that I do before I warm up. I also do physiotherapy exercises with a band. I want you to consult with a physiotherapist if you decide that you have some issues that you want to look at. I highly recommend it. Do you have any tips for releasing tension higher up in the fingerboard? I feel like I tend to overextend supination wise to reach really high notes, which hurts my wrist joint. So that tells me you're straining at this juncture here. So again, what's that concept? You go to bigger muscle groups, you go to bigger skeletal structures. So we're talking about the humerus, and we're talking about the two arm bones. We have the ulnar bone and the radial bone. So the radial bone by the thumb is the one that rotates. So if you are aware, if you take your thumbs away from center, this is called supination. If you touch the arm bone, you can see that the sliding against this radial bone is a larger muscle than here. So you may be experiencing some strain because you're trying to reach these fingers here, and they're straining at the wrist. If you start to ask the radial bone here and get more, okay, and then you can start going up even further to the larger structures, into the humerus, and then now we're getting to the glenohumeral joint. This glenohumeral joint is attached to your shoulder blade, and then you can actually do this external rotation, and now you can get even further. If I don't use this freedom here in the armpit, if I take this elbow back in space, okay, now I cannot reach here. See how this doesn't reach? If I start to twist, if I try to get that reach from here, I can't even do that. But if I go even bigger, now down to the elbow, let's see. It's actually not the elbow. You see how the elbow's not moving? It's actually here. Watch here. Grease. Remember I said to grease this area here? Now you see how I can reach? Where does the fourth finger reach come from? From the flexibility in here, the range of motion inside the armpit. The pinky is very small. She's very delicate. You have to support her with the big team. The team can come from under here. Make sure that this team is free here. I'm like a door hinge. Grease it here. You're going to get more reach and less strain up here. So thank you so much to everyone who attended. Glad to hear that everyone thought it was so helpful. Feel free to book a call on my calendar if you want to go further with this information. I go very deep and personal into your playing so that I can see what you are doing. I just gave you general concepts, and I hope you will take the concepts and run with them and practice them and put them into your daily routine. So write it down somewhere and share it publicly so that you can sear this into your brain. It will change the way you work. Bye! Thank you, everybody!